Joining me now is Annie Cyrus of liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.com. She also has a Substack, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Brand new article out tonight. Here it is. Meet the terror camp trainee on Trump's faith board. Not a rumor, not satire. This is real. Annie, this is really got a lot of the MAGA world really quite upset tonight. Can you talk to us about it, please?
Of course. But I'm going to say I'm expecting way more people to be upset, just as a side note. So on Friday, White House put out a press release announcing 2 new added members to the faith board of President Trump's administration.
Wait a minute. To the faith board?
Yes.
To the faith advisory
board.
Advisors,
yes. The faith advisory board of White House.
So we're going to try to maintain Christian freedom while we put people on the board who want to shut down Christianity.
Who want to kill Christians, to be precise. Okay,
there's seriously, can President Trump, can he bring you, me, Usama, Hadia, Usama? I mean, we need to be his people on Islam. Can he not come to us? He
could, but he choose not to. Yes, we could. Well, not just him. We could help him, his legacy, his administration, and this country. But so far, he has chosen to pick Muslim advisors in every corner of his administration.
I would think that Sebastian Gorka would be coming unglued right now, right?
I thought he would too. I mean, I thought many other would, but haven't yet.
Well, tell us about this character.
Sure. Okay, so as mentioned on my Substack, I think it was very ironic when I discovered that part, but Ismail, you'll see the name as Ismail Royer. Ismail Royer is not a child of Middle Eastern immigrants. He didn't immigrate himself here as a baby. He was born and raised right here in America, I think St. Louis, Missouri, to a very typical white Catholic family. I think the father was a lawyer, mom was a stay-at-home mom, and then he was born Eric Christopher Royer, and in 1992 he converted to Islam. Changed his name to Ismail Royer, and this was asked of me. Yes, Ismail is the Arabic version of Ishmael in Hebrew. It's the same name. And pretty much by early 2000, he decided that he wants to be a devout Muslim. He wants to be a real Muslim. So he has started going to mosques, listening to preachers, or imams, proper word, and then headed to Pakistan. Went to Pakistan for training, not in the language of Pakistani. No, he went there to become a full-on jihadi. He had the full conversion, and then he had the full training. Weapons, how to make a bomb, and how to recruit. I came back to U.S., just started recruiting Americans to join the jihadi networks, specifically Pakistani jihadi networks. Did the trainings, weapon and making bomb trainings, and then he was arrested here in America, convicted here in America, sentenced to 20 years in prison, and he served 13 years of that 20 years, and he was released based on good behavior apparently and cooperation with DOJ. And now he has a seat at the Trump administration's faith board in White House. That's the short version.
Well, Logan, pull that down there and let me play for you this is what Steve Emerson had to say about him on Fox News years ago. Steve's been on the broadcast a few times. Listen to what he had to say about this gentleman. Let me refresh the page. It's not going to work, I guess. And by the way, I guess I shouldn't call him gentleman. I guess you should say Islamist.
Jihadi.
Mm-hmm. So
This is Jihadi.
here we go.
Let me reveal something for the first time. Ismail Royer, a full-time care official, within days of 9/11, organized a group of individuals while he was on CARE's payroll to go fight against Americans in Afghanistan. And he was convicted of that. And that's something that cannot be disproven because it was revealed in grand jury testimony.
All right, I want to play that again. Okay, listen again. Here we go.
Let me reveal something for the first time. Ismail Royer, a full-time care official, within days of 9/11, organized a group of individuals while he was on CARE's payroll to go fight against Americans in Afghanistan. And he was convicted of that. And that's something that cannot be disproven because it was revealed in grand jury testimony.
Wow. So this character has been known for, I'm so disappointed in this. And you know, I want President Trump to be successful. And I don't think President Trump is an expert on Christianity. I don't think he's an expert on Judaism. I don't think he's an expert on Bible prophecy. I don't think he's an expert on Islam. I think Donald Trump is a businessman, now president for the second time. I think, like most politicians, he's pragmatic. I don't think he would deny that, right? I think he's taking some bold, courageous stands, no doubt about it. I think his life is still at risk with the deep state, i.e. James Comey's deal the other day. And I've said from the beginning that we're going to agree with him in some areas and disagree with him in some areas. But I guess to try to be charitable, what I really think, and maybe I'm wrong, Annie, what I really think is you have a guy that is missing major pieces of the puzzle. He is sadly, I think, surrounded by people giving him very, very bad advice. And I would be shocked if he has anyone telling him the truth. Do you think he even knows who this guy is? That he's been 20 years, that he was helping to fight our own soldiers in Afghanistan? I have a hard time believing anyone has told President Trump this.
I would say he does know.
You do?
I do. And the reason I say he does know is first time around, President Trump was brief on Islam, Sharia, terrorism, jihad, all of that.
By Rich Higgins, right?
Not just Rich Higgins. He also, at that term, for a while, he did have General Michael Flynn on his team. One of the people that really, as an ex-Muslim who I have all the expertise that's needed, I think General Flynn is one of the very rare people in America who truly knows what these people are about. President Trump did the Muslim ban, remember? He walked around the whole 4 years talking about jihadists and Taliban and ISIS and Al-Qaeda. It's hard for me to sit here and say, I don't think he knows who this person is. Just like I'm not going to say, I don't think who he posed picture with while in Middle East, being the leader of Syria.
Well, he knows, he does know who that guy is.
That's my point. Right now, even if for sake of argument, I don't think he's just getting bad advice. He is getting bad advice, but I don't think it's just that. But even if I just agree with that, then I'm going to move on to questioning his leadership for just taking bad advice over and over and not paying attention to what the result is. He watched Hussein Obama. He criticized Obama over his deal with Iran, over his deal with Taliban, over his deal with Muslim Brotherhood. You cannot criticize somebody and then go do the same thing and pretend like this is just for making good deals. I mean, I don't accept that. You know, I have been a supporter of President Trump. I give him credit when he does right. But last week, just looking at my Substack, I can't. I'm out of excuses for him. Not that I was trying to give him any excuse. But at this point, genuinely, I can't give him any more excuse or reason for what he's doing. From the Middle East trip, stepping to be the first American president to actually step into the biggest interfaith building in Abu Dhabi and signing the guest book there. These are questionable moves, Brennan. This isn't bad advice. This is Trump trying to make that deal. And inside America, he's trying to return the favor of the 7 imams who endorsed him and delivered Michigan for him on November. That's
So
why
it's-
I
it's-
think
it's-
that's where he's coming from.
So it's you think two things: political payback for delivering Michigan, the Muslims that endorsed him, the imams, and two, he wants this Abraham Accord so badly, he's trying to do things at the home base here to appeal to those Islamic countries.
Exactly. And let's not mention, he definitely doesn't want to go down in history as the president that faced the biggest Islamic terror in the country. So he's trying to keep him happy. He did say in
let's
his
stop right
first...
there. Let's stop right there. Say that again, and what do you mean by that?
What I mean is, that's why I said I don't think he doesn't know what these people stand for.
You think he's trying to appease them to get them to make sure they don't call for the largest terrorist attack on American soil in American history?
Exactly. There is no other reason.
Which would tell me he has been briefed about major terror cells in the U.S., which, Logan, can you find the clip of Kash Patel talking about moving the FBI building because it's not safe? Let me connect the dots there. When Kash Patel said, we've got to get the headquarters of the FBI, which we were just standing in front of and to the side of, because when we were doing that we were covering that press conference and doing my radio show live from D.C., we were in front of the Department of Justice, and then to my left was the FBI headquarters. Then the next day or a couple days later, we went to Ford's Theater and the Peterson House, where Lincoln was taken across the street to the boarding house where he died, and we filmed all that. We were then at that point, we were by 2 doors down from the FBI headquarters. So we know right where we're at, right? And I have to tell you, while we were there 2 doors down from the FBI headquarters at Ford's Theater, you look up the 7th floor, and I was thinking to myself, this seems like a very strategic building to be right here among all these people that are coming and going that aren't scanned. Or to me, I kind of thought it's kind of a weird place to have this building with all the security problems. You think about the White House being way set off the road, lots of barriers, lots of borders, cars, are not going anywhere near it like they were when I was a kid and lived there. And I'm looking up at the FBI building while we're standing outside the Peterson House, thinking to myself, this is kind of weird that this building's still here, right? And then the next week, Kash Patel says this. Listen.
Man, which we're not. In the National Capital Region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's like a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we're taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state's getting a plus up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say, we want to go work at the FBI because we want to go fight violent crime and we want to get sent out into the country to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing. In the next 3, 6, 9 months, we're going to do that hard. And, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up
okay,
a big
go right
nugget.
back there again.
But we want the American
go back to racism.
9 months. We're going to do that hard. And, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up a big nugget.
We want the American men and women to know, if you're going to come work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that. And that's not this place.
All right. When I heard that last week, I don't know what you thought, but I thought these guys have been read in. They have been read in onto, in my opinion, massive existential threats to the country, to the FBI building, to any of these sensitive government buildings. They've been read in. Why else would the FBI director say, we are going to exit the Hoover building? It is not safe. There's no other reason other than it is terror cells, terror threats. They have been read in. And now that adds that to the conversation you're saying, then President Trump's obviously been read in. He's thinking, maybe I can get the leaders of Islam to call their dogs to heel. Now, I'll tell you, from a strategic standpoint, it will work in part, because Dave Gobbets has said, and I love your cat comes over and paws you and does that now a couple shows. It's pretty cute. Dave Gobbets said on my show last week, when he's gone in undercover to now over 425 mosques and now one for us, and we have the sworn affidavit here on it, he asked the imam, why have there not been any more terrorist attacks on American soil like 9/11? And the answer has been, we're making progress. We're making progress. That would set us back 20, 25 years. Now, if President Trump is putting key people in positions to make progress, that then can be used to tell those leaders, you're being mainstreamed. Call your dogs to heel. Which makes me again wonder, is this president, is this FBI director that afraid of a major terrorist attack?
I was asked that very question, why we haven't faced another major attack like September 11. And I actually pretty much the same answer, but I said, why would they do something like that when now they are part of the society? They have been normalized. They have their narrative moving forward. Is Trump or Kash Patel that afraid? I don't honestly know.
What does your gut tell you?
I don't think this is fear. Reason, again, recent speech by President Trump in Saudi Arabia. We are back to having the strongest military there is. If we got the best military and we got the best equipment, what are we afraid of?
Well, they're afraid of terrorist attacks. I mean,
I know, but enabling the terrorists to pass it on to the next president so you can walk and say, you see, there were no jihadi attack under my watch. I don't know. I thought Trump is better than that. Well, maybe I was wrong. He's literally giving this country away to the enemy so he can have no issues or any major attacks to deal with.
Or maybe he really believes in his abilities to negotiate and offer deals to control them. Maybe he feels like this is his way to control them. I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt every turn I can.
Well, here's the thing. Even Kash Patel, until this very video that you played Sunday interview, I always said he's one of the two people I trust in Trump's administration. But I caught one sentence in his interview. I was like, well, we're done. Because from 2019 until this Sunday, conservatives, Republicans, some of the Democrats, and MAGA made a fool. Actually, this is my next Substack that's going to be released. Made a fool meme war out of Epstein didn't kill himself. And you have Kash Patel sitting there Sunday saying, I saw the file. When you see a suicide, you know it's a suicide. He killed himself. Now we have a state-approved narrative that suddenly Epstein actually killed himself?
And yet I think Chris Martenson, if I can find it on Twitter, Chris Martenson saying that he's done autopsies and he's explaining why he's not buying that.
Well, here's the thing, Brandon. How do we go? These two people on camera, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Don Jr., Jack Posobiec, Steve Bannon, for 6 years loudly on top of their lungs, they screamed Epstein didn't kill himself. He was suicided. It was Clinton's. It was the corrupt FBI. It was the swamp. It was the deepest. After 6 years, like Dad, and Cash Patel is claiming to seen everything in the files. The very files that supposedly were shredded by previous FBI. That's why they couldn't release them. Give me a break.
Here's what Chris Martinson said. My PhD is in pathology, toxicology. I performed autopsies. I know enough about anatomy to know that a slump hanging is not going to fracture the hyoid bone in 3 pieces. Epstein did not kill himself. He was strangled by a strong man. This indicates we have a huge problem. Yeah. All right, Annie, we're gonna go to a panel. You're gonna be a part of it. Any other closing comment on your article over at liveuptofreedom.substack.com?
Yes, I'm with you. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'll encourage everybody, and I keep these very short. Read these Substacks, read them, take notes, and then pay very close attention to the actions of him, now the FBI, DOJ, pay close attention. As much as I would love to give him the benefit of the doubt, knowing what I know, coming where I come from, this isn't about what we think it is. If we don't push back because we love Trump that much and Trump is the master of all deals and all those excuses, we're going to very quickly regret not pushing back against some of his major decisions inside America and in the Middle East. This is going to be ugly.
Now, I want to ask you, though, what do you think Kash Patel means when he says this building is not safe to be the FBI headquarters?
I honestly, I think he's hinting at possibly the deepest state. Their people. I don't think he's worried today about a jihad attack for the fact that the plan is to keep him happy. Every day somebody's being assigned a new position in administration one way or another from an Islamic community.
So how is
I
the
do
bill?
think he's worried about deep state.
How so?
Trump has been very focused on a lot of, again, I give credit when it's due. He has focused on getting some of these members involved with deep state or shadow government, whatever we want to call them. He's been very focused pushing FBI and Kash Patel to continue the investigations. So if he has found something that he's about to put out, he's going to be automatically concerned that they might come after him and his entire building.
False
That's
flag.
one side that Trump is-
like a false flag.
A false flag, or maybe possibly he has names he's about to release. I know I did see a report that by end of June, they're going to make about 120 arrests. If he's really have the evidence to go pick up 120 of these people who are part of deep state, I would understand his concern with the building. Because it's going to be the biggest arrest ever made of corrupt members of government.
But even if it's not that, you and I both know that should concern him, the deep state. But these terror cells should concern him. They're, whether he knows it or not, I don't know what he's been briefed on. I don't know what he's referring to. But he better be afraid, in my opinion, of the deep state, and he better be very worried about these terror cells. Now, these terror cells may have now been less prone to being activated because of the advances they're making. But I still am under the belief that there are very, very dangerous terror cells, Islamic terror cells here in the U.S. You agree?
No question about it. Absolutely, 100%. I can't necessarily say this to Kash Patel, no offense, Kash, but I'll say this to President Trump or Dan Bongino. I understand being concerned and being afraid, but as Christians, you're not supposed to fear. So either of you, if you're bending and having a strategy to give him more power in order to keep him quiet, I'll say maybe at the end of the night when you're done with all your meetings and handshaking and taking pictures, pick up your Bibles, read them.
All right, liveuptofreedom.com and liveuptofreedom.substack.com. We'll come back. We're going to be joined by Dave Gobbets, part 2. He gave us today a sworn affidavit that we're putting online for you to look at as well. Some new pictures. I'm going to be seeing some of them for the first time as well. We'll be joined by Annie Cyrus, Shram Hadian, and Dave Gobbets right after this. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from this from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a TULP treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gatatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain of phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. 1 scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gattatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.